back here. I heard he's available.
It's about time. Like, let's reach out to him.
Yeah,
but I had to cut a fire promo because today we were doing 5-3-1 dream matches on Kevin Owens. And I wanted to give a little Kevin Owens promo to AJ.
How many lists did you have, by the way, today? So we know.
About 9.
All right, I got 10. All right, so we're on the same page. That's good. Kevin Owens, baby. You know what? Okay, so me and you, since we're doing this little different chemistry, Kevin Owens, I was thinking about this because, like, to me, he's one of the most consistent guys in pro wrestling. Like, even when he was working with Vince and Vince was giving him shit, like, Kevin has a way of making his segment the best segment in a show very consistently. He makes the most of his minutes. And to me, now that, like, you know, Hunter's back in charge, I think the sky's the limit. I think there's going to be a very popular match on here that we're going to see over and over again with another young kid who's really good at talking that me and you talked about this week, and you put his segment over on a recent episode of Dynamite that we just saw. So I just think Kevin Owens is like one of the top 3 talkers in the world currently.
Yeah, definitely. And it's got to say something that they used him to bridge Elias out of that horrible gimmick back to where he is. And I mean, he got a segment with Stone Cold at WrestleMania. You can't say much bigger than that.
You closed the show with Stone Cold, not to cut you off, but like, yeah, how huge is that?
Yeah, he came into NXT with a lot of hype and fanfare. And I think his time as Kevin Owens might have like overshadowed what he did as Kevin Steen. It's a little hard to say, but I mean, it feels like it's almost to that point.
Yeah. I mean, he had a great run in Ring of Honor, maybe some of the best creatively. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things like Kurt Angle talked about. Like, people love his time in WWE, but he had a much longer run actually in Impact and did a lot more stuff in Impact.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, where you make the biggest impression is where people think of you the most. You know, I'm sure there's people that think about Roddy Piper and say Portland or, you know, Mid-Atlantic, but a lot more people think about his run in WWE as the biggest.
Sure. Right before WrestleMania, him and Hulk Hogan, MTV, the war to settle the score, and that leads into the first ever WrestleMania. I mean, it's kind of hard to get bigger than that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to kick it off with my first list because I got Don D. Ramirez from the Mothership Facebook group, and he's got MJF, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, and Bobby Lashley.
Bobby Lashley. That's an interesting one. That match might have taken place before.
It's so hard to tell because WWE for so long has just thrown so many matches at the wall.
Yeah.
That I don't think it has, but it could have.
Yeah. Daniel Backley's got a list here. He hit up the Working Fans Podcast Facebook page. Interesting list. Jeff Cobb, Brian Cage, Hangman Page, Josh Alexander, and Fred Rosser.
Okay, that's a varied list.
Yeah, it is. A lot of different creative people. Are you keeping some tabs? Because I have some tabs too. I didn't know if one of us was going to be doing the AJ thing.
I had it in mind. I haven't written anything down ahead of time yet, but I know AJ, people to look at.
AJ, we trashed you, but you know what? You are the best when it comes to teaming them tallies, brother.
He really has made that part of it. Because I remember the first week he did it, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? But then, like, I listened to it, and it almost had the feel of like an election night where you're wondering who's winning. But then, like, sometimes you guys get caught up in the vote. And then whenever I hear brackets, I'm like, this has gone to shit because creating a bracket without writing it down. My favorite part of last week.
We got lost one time.
My favorite part of last week's show is when AJ was hyping up a show saying it was the best. And then he goes, what's it called? Like, it's not good. Like, you don't know the name. So sometimes we get lost in the details a little bit. And it's like, shit goes awry.
I think we did that with Oh God, who was the guy from Sunday night's main event, Emmy Award winner?
Jason Agnew.
Jason Agnew, thank you. He had him on, and I think AJ had said something along the lines like, "Oh, that's cool." Yeah, like we said, I think I might have said openly, "Yeah, AJ didn't get to listen to a lot of your work with audio wrestling, and just curious about that blah blah." And then AJ's like, "Oh yeah, wow, that's cool." And then later on, you go, "We love your work and audio." Like he was starting to build them up, and I'm like, "Motherfucker, we already told him he didn't."
Yeah. Now you're just telling him we're full of shit. Thanks,
ever the salesman now.
Now, Jason Harlan from the Mothership Facebook group has Tomohiro Ishii, Pentagon Jr., Jinsei Shinzaki, Shingo Takagi,
Wow.
and Nino Hamburguesa.
Very varied. Very varied.
Yeah, that was another worldly list that nobody's probably making the final three.
By the way, I meant to tell you, in inspiration of the Mothership Facebook group, I came up with somebody for next week's 531. I have an idea.
Okay. So we'll see if we got one to pop the group, because I thought that Kevin Owens might do it, but I got two. Yeah. And I got a few bullshit answers.
I can't wait for that. All right. I got Dan is Cool 09. Longtime fan of the show. He's got
this on YouTube. Thanks for watching, brother.
Thank you, Dad. Eugene, MJF, Triple H, Luchasaurus, and I like this. He was the only guy that did this. A tag team match: Jericho and Owens versus the Young Bucks. So I like the creativity right there.
Nice. Well, I'm going to bring you my list next, because I've got Cactus Jack, Mance Warner. I've got a tag team match of Owens and Sami Zayn versus Los Macizos from GCW. That's good. I've got MJF and I've got Terry Funk.
We'll get to my list later, but I decided I was a real asshole about it. I decided I went for, if I didn't, now again, I didn't see your list, but everybody on my list that I saw, I went the opposite. I went, okay, I'm trying to be something different. But
another thing AJ said in the past episode, since he's not here, we can rip him unrepentantly. He said a dream match,
motherfucking ass.
He said a dream match isn't something that could possibly happen, but it is.
It is, yeah, because
it can be something that could happen. Not something that's lined up right now. That's like saying, let's say like Riddle and Seth Rollins had never tangled, but the angle was leading towards it. I don't necessarily think you could say is a dream match, because the process has already started. But if these guys are in the same federation and haven't tangled and it's a possibility, I think it's a dream match.
I would agree. And this little breaking news here, I just got a list as we were on the show, so it's getting read. Mike Flynn, super busy day, he tells me, but he's got Bret Hart, Rowdy Piper, Brian Pillman, I'm assuming he means senior, Owen Hart, and The Rock. So thank you, Mike Flynn, who I got this list to yesterday and was super busy, and he got it right now. So love you, Mike.
He knew we were recording. He had to get it in at the finish line.
Yeah, I'm going to give you another list since that was an extra, and I know I got a little more to do. So I got good personal friend Scott. He's got
his best friend, apparently.
Apparently, he put him over like a motherfucker. We asking questions now.
I know, it surprised even Scott.
It surprised me what happened. I think Scott noticed in my voice. I was like, oh, shit, all right.
I'm going to have to watch a video of that and just watch Dave's eyes when he says that. Like,
all right, that's cool. I love him too. We're all family. All right. He's got, again, he went with the tag team. I love this. He's got teaming with Owen Hart against the Hart Foundation. So everybody so far has done like a different partner against a different team, which I like. He's got MJF as well. Seems to be a popular one. Eddie Guerrero, second time I've heard Eddie. Kenta Kobashi, Big Boss Man, but Owen is cosplaying as the Mountie. Owens is cosplaying as the Mountie, which I love because I could see Kevin Owens doing something like that. So big points on creativity for Scott for that. And I know Boss Man was one of his all-time favorites and underrated guy.
Oh, yeah. Now, the next list I got for you is Mark Stoltz from the Booking the Territory Facebook group. He's got Vader, RVD, Cactus Jack, Terry Funk, Roddy Piper, and in parentheses, the promos. And then Jake Rule, 1992, Steve Austin.
1992, Steve Austin. Very good. Yeah, because we did see Steve Austin, as AJ would point out to us if he was here. So
now, while I have been jokingly slamming AJ this whole episode, the one thing I do want to break to you guys is the fans are not picking up on the Jake Rule yet. Pat Oates loves the Jake Rule.
Yes.
But I usually write that in when somebody writes a sixth one. I've heard you guys speculate in past episodes, and I just wanted to break kayfabe for a moment.
Yes, Joe was calling it Jake Rule. I had my suspicions, but I wasn't going to. You know what? Let's fake it till we make it.
Yeah, you're like, that sounds good. I'm like, sorry, I've been lying the whole time.
Well, yeah, and I think Scott called it a Jake Rule last week. He did it. Or AJ. Yes, that's right. That's right.
Because people that don't do something didn't do what they usually did.
No names.
Well, right. Speaking of lying, I got Dave Fabe for you. He's got Andy Kaufman, Jake Paul, The Sheik.
Oh, shit.
Tomohiro Ishii, and Harry Smith.
First off, I love that list. Big fan of the show. All right. Speaking of Jake Rule, I got Jake St. John, master of the Jake Rule, who didn't give me a Jake Rule this week, but nonetheless, he was another guy I hit up very short notice. Shawn Michaels, MJF, Rowdy Piper, Brian Pillman, Owen Hart. And I did tell him, hopefully we get Owens versus MJF. And he made it a point to say an AEW LOL. But I will tell Jake, I didn't get to respond, but I don't care where it is because those two are going to be fire. And now I am also looking at it optimistically as, we're in a new WWE with Hunter in charge too. So if this had been Vince's WWE, I might have been a little more, when MJF comes out, talking about suffer and succotash or something. But
we're seeing things now like LA Knight going back to LA Knight and getting back into the ring from that Max Dupree gimmick.
Yes.
I mean, the maximum male models are still where they are, but they're serving a purpose. Sadly, almost like Hit Row as like a mid card. I'm not going to call them jobber tag team, but they take a lot of losses.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see like Legado El Fantasma showed up. I feel like that was Hit Row's push right there. Okay, well, now we have a bigger act where we have all the original people because you don't have your original guy anymore. So we gave you a couple wins to start off, but your job is to get these guys over.
I'm enjoying that there's at least multiple tag teams and in like a decent spot, like being featured in the show.
Absolutely. And that I like that we're still getting video package and Intercontinental and US titles are still the main events right now at times. And, it's not just other than Riddle and Rollins, which is being more isolated as a specific feud, we're not seeing a ton of rematches or the same matches every week too.
No, not at all. Now, the next list I got for you is from Matt Ford from the Book in the Territory Facebook group, Shawn Michaels, Bobby Eaton, Owen Hart, Brian Pillman, and Dustin Rhodes as Goldust in the Attitude Era. I think that could have provided some terrific promos and content.
Absolutely. Some we probably couldn't get away with today. But speaking of the man of the hour.
A lot of use of the F word, and I'm not talking about fuck.
Someone else told us once. The man of the hour, the guy who is on the guy we've been slamming. Breaking news, I got a list. AJ Strange Brew. This
man is on a plane out of the country, I suppose.
He probably won't be. I got it from him yesterday.
Oh, okay.
It really wasn't breaking.
Before he fled the country.
With supposedly his wife, MJF, Rowdy Piper, Brody. I would assume that means Bruiser Brody, Magnum TA, and Terry Gordy.
Wow, I was debating putting Gordy on my list, And here's why, because I got a list from Kevin Irvine that has Jake Roberts, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Great Muta, Jonathan Gresham, Minoru Suzuki. And when I saw that Dr. Death name, I was like, ooh, that's a good matchup.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I think Terry Gordy would just be a hair too big.
So I've been using Doc and Gordy on some of my lists the last couple of weeks because I've been on a little bit of kick with them. I stayed away from them this week because I don't want to use them all the time. I don't want to be a crutch. So, but I got Zach St. John. We'll get to my list at the end here. Zach St. John. He's got Mick Foley, Ishii, MJF, and he says the promos would be amazing. Triple H, which we've seen Trips on here a couple times too. Yeah. And Rob Van Dam. No idea why. It just came to me. LOL. Here's the thing. Getting back to that Trips thing. As I said that, I'm like, oh, Hunter actually, has him in NXT, brings him in NXT, and then Hunter actually helped him get his first WWE World Championship, the Universal title over Seth Rollins. So actually, there's a storyline there. I mean, obviously, Hunter, it would be able to happen now, but it would be interesting if that could happen.
Yep. It's wild that you mentioned RVD in that it just came to them because Brian Cornelius from the Book in the Territory Facebook group, Cactus Jack, RVD, Shawn Michaels in 05, Okada, and Kurt Angle.
Good list, solid list. Shawn Michaels making a few lists there too. All right, we got Randy and his friends. I don't know how many else you got?
I just got one more.
Well, I got three here. Let me wipe out Randy's friends. You hit me with yours, and I'll give you mine. Not to wipe out.
I'm a little league EJ now. Let's wipe out Randy's friends.
We appreciate you, Randy. Keep getting these people coming there. We appreciate the
list. No matter what AJ says.
Like and subscribe, too. Make sure these motherfuckers subscribe. All right, Alex Lorenzo, Owen Hart, The Rock, Cactus Jack, MJF, and HBK. So 3 names we've been hearing consistently are on that list. Then Randy himself has Tully Blanchard, L.A. Park, I like that one, Alexander Hammerstone, Tom Lawler, and Owen Hart. Owen Hart making a few more lists here, too. And then we have Anthony Laterra. He's got MJF, who's got to be the runaway vote getter here. Ric Flair, only heard him once. Kurt Hennig, Bob Backlund, and I like this one, Mr. USA, Tony Atlas, baby.
Wow. That is an interesting list. Now, John White brings us a list in MJF, Edge, Owen Hart, Roddy Piper, Bret Hart.
I accidentally hit muted you for a second, so you heard the cough. And I did that on the Combat Cast this week. I only do one time. They're right next to each other, guys. I'm sorry.
If you're watching this live, we're having technical difficulties sometimes.
Yeah. Me and Joe been talking
about live show.
Some editing stuff going on behind the scenes, too. Joe's like, I don't know if I can trust you. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to say it, but I did hear the cough on the Combat Cast. Coming out tomorrow.
It's the same thing. This earbud. I got it. All right. Mental note. Anyway, let's finish this up. I got my own list here. I don't think I heard any of these guys. Maybe one of them. I got Rick Steiner. I thought about his early days. Dogface Gremlin. By the way, Table for 3, the Steiners and Braun Breaker. I don't think it's the most recent one. Totally hilarious. They talk about Braun stealing their moves and stealing their tights and everything. And Braun is like, well, because I asked him, like, why don't you just call yourself Braun Steiner? And he's like, well, Braun Breaker, break things in football. And he's like, and I'll make it on my own. I don't need to need the family's name. And they're like, yeah, make it on your own. Like, you took my tights and you stole our moves. And he's like, and then they made a joke like, yeah, well, no, we never did that face plant. And then they have footage of Braun actually missing the bulldog off the top one time and he face planted. And Scott's like, yeah, I never did that one either. So hilarious episode. But I digress. I have Ron Simmons, Dusty Rhodes, the Dynamite Kid, and Sting.
That's a solid list.
I know. And I know what we had seen. So
now I did not keep numbers of votes like AJ. I just wrote down the 5 names I heard the most.
Okay.
And I've got for the top 3 MJF, Bret Hart, and Piper.
Okay. I have my top 3 MJF, Triple H, and then I just got a bunch of people tied. So let's MJF.
Triple H got that many votes?
I had him down for like 3 votes here.
Okay.
So on my list,
like for the 5 names that I had written down were the MJF, Bret Hart, Piper, and then I had Owen and Shawn Michaels after that.
I had Piper too. So okay, MJF and Piper, and yeah, all right, let's throw Bret in there.
Okay, so MJF, Bret, Piper.
Yeah.
Really, what we're going to be arguing for is second and third place, because I think everybody wants that MJF match. You know, it was, to me, it's almost to the level of like where Miz and Bryan Danielson were right when Danielson came back, as far as responses to this list. Like people that got to us, almost, I'd say like 3/4 of the people had to have MJF somewhere on their list.
Yeah, everybody wants to see this match. It's just there. I think you're talking about the 2 best modern promos. There's some other guys. I mean, you can talk about your Romans. Sammy's really good at what he does, and then you got guys like, trying to think of another good example. Omega when he was on, Punk when he was on. I don't know what's happening with them currently, but like when you look at like the top 2 current promo guys that are in week in, week out, I think it's MJF and Kevin Owens.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I would say Piper second, because that's like the dream promo battle that we want.
Yeah.
And
yeah, Bret might be the best in-ring competitor, but when we think of, out of everybody here, but when you think about like the promos, like that's not going to be like Bret. I think was a solid promo, but he wasn't a promo to the level of a guy like a Flair, like a Piper, like a Owens, like an MJF. So yeah, I have no problem with that. I'd say Bret third. Which, by the way, you got to tell you where our fans are at right now, because Bret Hart seems to be in the top 3 of almost all these lists we've been having every week.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to how good a wrestler he was. And these are all just different different matchups that we'd like to see. Like, how would his style match with Owens? Because he could wrestle with pretty much anybody.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think him and Owens would have a banger of a match. But if you think about Owens and you're thinking about the promo battles, Piper would have been the man back in the 80s. But right now, I think the one we all want to see, that we possibly could see, is MJF. And I mean, the winner this week. So many people wanted it. Let's give it to him.
Yeah, so MJF's your winner this week. Piper came in second. Bret third. And Dave, who do you want to do for a 5-3-1 next week before we get into this final segment?
All right, so it can still be any era, but I'm interested more of current people against this guy. I'd like to see a top 5 dream matches of Abdullah the Butcher.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of response, but I feel like the book in the territory group might find this one interesting. So let's see. Brody was another guy that popped in my mind, but let's just I don't think we've done one with Abby. So let's
see if the mothership and book in the territory come through for us on this one. It's going to be interesting, the variety that we get.
Yeah.
Now, Dave, we missed it last week. The final Pro Wrestling Illustrated PWI 500. And before I jump into what I was thinking of doing for a final segment, you actually picked up the magazine yourself. So what did you think about picking up your first? How long's it been since you bought a Pro Wrestling Illustrated?
I haven't even got back to it since I picked it up, but probably like 15 years.
Wow. Now, what did you like? You looked through it, you found the one section on, you said experience.
Yeah. And
what sections stood out to you? What sections did you go for?
I mean, I just looked a little bit at the 500. Just looked at some of the names that maybe I didn't recognize and people like that. Nothing that I'm recalling right now, but that was kind of what I was doing. I was looking at that. It was a busy week, as Joe knows, for me. So, but when I picked up that magazine Friday afternoon, my week wasn't going to be as busy, but it turned out it was. So.
Now, I'm all about it. I love the magazine. I always get a kick out of the rankings, seeing where people rank across the federations. That was like always one of my sections, as always looking at the 500. Now, after the PWI 500 comes out, they usually do a women's 150, but women were included in the 500 over the last couple of years. And I went through and picked out all the ladies out of this one. And I'm going to number this quickly, but what I noticed is they've got nobody from any major federation. And that just seems weird with the qualifications that they use to get in there. Do you think there's a reason why more indie ladies hit this than WWE?
Well, my guess is there's more indie ladies doing intergender matches, so they're competing against the men who are in this particular, ranking system. That would be one, probably more for justification. The
Do you
second
think
part
they
is,
wrestle more of a schedule?
again, I think if you're looking at the criteria, they're competing against men, which the 500 ultimately is a men's list, really, because the women are going to get their separate list. And yeah,
But going by the qualifications of notoriety, dates put in, like wins, losses, I would think some WWE names would have to factor in.
Even AEW, like why wouldn't be a Britt Baker wouldn't be on there, or a Thunder Rosa, who's a champion in NWA, well, not this year, but you know what I mean, but champion AEW. No, I mean the bigger reason probably is probably just marketing, because they're going to do a separate women's one, and you want all the top women in that particular issue, and it's probably easier to manage a 150 list too. So you keep all the women separate.
It'll be interesting to see where these names place in the 150 if they make it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, we'll get to that. But I guess what I'm saying there too is a little bit to answer your question too. You're right. It doesn't really make a ton of sense when you're throwing out those qualifications.
Now, if you were just looking at indie women's wrestlers, wow, there's a couple Impact names on here. So who do you think would be the top indie women's wrestler, or like would you even have a guess?
Well, my guess is, since you said Impact name, a person you're probably going to see on that is Masha Slamovich.
She is number 110.
Yeah. Jordan Grace would be one maybe you could see on there, but maybe she's a bigger. Okay, so she's made the
97.
Okay. She's also probably had intergender matches as well.
And you hit number 2 and 3 on this list of where they placed. So there's one lady that placed higher than both of them.
Oh, really? Interesting. Since inactivity, I would almost think Tessa Blanchard, but I think inactivity would not put her on that list.
Not even on the list.
No, okay. So, okay. So we've had Masha, we've had Jordan. Interesting. Not Camille, right?
Surprisingly not. She's definitely going to be on the 150. And if you guys haven't seen the newest Triple Mania from Mexico City, Camille versus Taya is a match to catch. It is one of the best ladies matches I've seen in a while.
How about Taya? I'll throw my last pick at Taya.
Taya is not on here either.
Surprisingly. Who was the other one then?
Trisha Dora hit number 50.
Oh, no kidding.
Now, I'll go through some of these other names. Allie Catch, GCW favorite, was 111. Erica Lee, I don't know who she is, 186. Dark Sheik is 203. Willow Nightingale, 208.
Okay.
Session Moth Martina was 357. I'm skipping around here because I'm not just going to run through the whole list, but not like Sawyer Wreck was 450. So, a lot of weird names. And I don't know. There's probably an explanation in the magazine I'll have to look for. about kind of how the women rank in there because there has to be some sort of system. But I just wanted to bring it up. It was more a section that I was hoping to do with AJ, but since he's not here, we talked about it.
Yeah, I just think ultimately it's got to be a marketing thing. It keeps some of the bigger names out, and if the criteria is also the competition and stuff, and these other people are competing, I guess they're probably, for the most part, they're probably trying to keep the women separate and the men separate. But you have women that wrestle men, so probably the ones who more frequently wrestle men just ended up, so
it ends it up like doubling their schedule,
right? And you end up, and you're getting some wins over some of these people probably too that are on the list and stuff too. So it's almost like, how do you not put them?
Oh, so like if they're defeating men are just inherently ranked higher in the PWI system
Because the PWI
that's what gives them the credibility to get in there.
That's what I would think. The PWI system is obviously geared towards men. That's why you have a separate one for women. There's a separate one for each.
Ladies, you heard it here. Men are just naturally ranked higher than women.
Yeah,
man called Dave told you that.
Well, here's the deal. All right, maybe some men will make the list on the women. I doubt it, but
man, we're not getting into that. We don't get
Brian Cage like Blanchard. All right, if so. Maybe Brian's got to make this list. Brian Cage is number one.
Oh shit, man! I thought you were talking about some they thems. I was gonna.
No, I know you're talking about. No, I was not. I was not.
Now, guys, we're just having fun here. I mean, I'd say what wasn't fun is last weekend we helped Dave out because we love Dave, but Dave, you broke our bodies.
Yeah,
Chevy, he's hurt.
He's hurt. Broke him. We're all hurt. Helped my lovely girlfriend move into her new home, and her kids, and everybody's happy. For the most part, there's a few. But at the end of the day, it ended up being a very long weekend. But I had Joe there.
Got wrestling watching in, which is amazing. I know I was exhausted that night. I think I fell asleep. That had to be a GCW show or something I was watching.
I think we were watching Triple Mania, right? The start.
Oh, yep, that was it. Last weekend was a blur, buddy.
Yeah. So, we survived. We're here every week.
Yeah, we'll be coming back to you next week with Abdullah the Butcher. You got to get us your list. And hell, I'm watching. I told Dave before we started recording, I've been trying to do 31 horror movies for 31 days in October. And I can't wait till it turns fucking November because I love horror movies. But when you set up a challenge like this to try and watch so many, it can be way too much. I hope everybody out there is enjoying them, though. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you can. Dave's going to be having more Combat Cast stuff coming at you. And AJ will be around. He's got 31 Halloween. Fuck, does he have a Halloween fact for today since he got on the plane?
He said he was going to, but we'll see.
Well, guys, we had fun here this week. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next week.